All right, welcome back to the show. Steve Forbes, Forbes Media Chairman, Editor-in-Chief, and Liz Peek, Fox News contributor. Both of you, thank you for coming on set, particularly. Steve Forbes, reading your tweet, I didn't read your article yet, but I will. I mean, I don't know if the war's over or not. I think it's 98, 99% over. There may be some more bombing left. But to your point, we have to keep the pedal to the metal, if that's right. Pedal to the metal, yeah. If Iran, if they act up in the Strait of Hormuz, if they don't want to play ball, if they don't show up at meetings, any of the usual things they do, then they'll get slammed again. I mean, I think Trump has them completely trapped. That's why I think it's pretty much over.
Well, what you worry about is that they're feeling, maybe because of the ceasefire, that he won't pull the trigger again because of all the pressures here at home, all the pressures around the world, pressures from dear media and things like that. They're counting on a political victory. They know they've lost militarily, but they've seen it in the past where a country or a party's lost militarily but wins politically. And that's what they're hoping for here. So they'll play it out. I hope we have targets ready, especially in terms of freeing up the strait. And I wish we'd get away from this talk about having fees of going through the strait.
Oh, no.
That's not a canal. It's an international sea, and freedom of the seas.
You're not crazy about this idea of revenue sharing in the Strait of Hormuz. The president has tweeted on that.
No, we don't want to have China say, well, we're going to have a toll in the South China Sea. Hello, we've got and one of the things that they're doing now, the Chinese, building man-made islands in the South China Sea once again to try to establish their supremacy there. So I hope we have the targets ready, and I hope the president's ready to use them if he gets any kind of pushback from these guys in Tehran or wherever they're hiding.
I think one of the toughest nuts to crack, however, is going to be the enriched uranium. I mean, in one of this is the 10-point plan I found last night, the Supreme National Security Council. They're all supreme, something or other. Let's see, point number 3, acceptance that Iran can enrich uranium for its nuclear program. Now, that is so stupid, it's beyond stupid. But if they actually sit there at this table, whatever it is in Islamabad, Pakistan, this coming weekend, and argue for that, and if they're intransigent, then Trump's going to have to take action.
Well, but let's be clear, there's enrichment of uranium for commercial purposes, and then there's enrichment for uranium to 60% or 70%, which is what they've been doing, that has exactly one purpose, and that's making a nuclear weapon. So they may actually, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if we agreed to some ability for Iran to have nuclear power plants. That's what they've always pretended that they wanted this for. But
it's sitting on a massive oil and gas reservoir.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Power plants.
100%. But Steve, with due respect, there is no question in my mind they have targets lined up. Look what they've done so far. I mean, the intelligence we have on where the people are, where the critical businesses are, et cetera. If they want to pursue this, if Iran doesn't behave over the next 2 weeks, to use your language, Larry, this will be an ongoing conflict. And I don't think Iran wants that. And so these demands are ludicrous, and I think that they will get whittled down.
I mean, they like to stall and delay. I mean, they spent 50 years stalling and delaying, in effect. But we know that. And they're up against a president, commander-in-chief, who is action-oriented and hates stalling and delaying. That's why my sense is that, okay, we may have a little more leverage, bombing leverage necessary, but he won't stand for it. Let's say 2 weeks pass here and nothing happens. I think he will get very impatient, as he has in other incidents. And whether it's tariffs or, but in this case, bombing, he's not going to let them get away. I just don't believe it. I don't believe he'll cut a bad deal. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's absolutely critical, especially him going to China in May. Xi Jinping has probably got in the back of his mind, what if Xi Jinping says someday we might impose an embargo or a blockade on Taiwan? What are you going to do about it? I want Xi Jinping to understand we will do something. We won't stand for it. And that's the whole big test in Iran, is that We may do a pause, but the key thing is, at the end of the day, that regime's going to go, the uranium's going to go, the people are going to stop being slaughtered by the Revolutionary Guard and things like that. Iran's now earned emasculation. Not even, I wouldn't even let them have nuclear plants. You've lost that right, given your behavior for 47 years.
No, you probably. I know you are right. I agree with you, Liz. We still have the home front. We still don't have a DHS budget. We're still going to have. I think we're going to need another reconciliation bill, and it'll be writ large. It'll be the Pentagon supplemental. It'll be the Save America voting rights ID bill. It'll be the DHS bill, and I'd like to see some pro-growth tax reform. I want those guys to really go for it. At a minimum, we shouldn't pay capital gains tax on inflated gains. And the Forbes plan wants to lower the marginal rates on middle income. Why not? Why not go for it?
100%.
Trump's in a powerful position here.
Yes.
This war has turned down 38 days. He's basically knocked out Iran.
And what we've seen is that Democrats won't go along with anything, even routine funding of the government. So why in the world would you not have a reconciliation plan? You've been talking about it for months. So have I. I mean, what's the problem with doing that? This would give, frankly, Republicans something to talk about when they go out on the stump between now and the midterms, because honestly, with all due respect to the fact that we have a narrow majority and so forth, they don't have a whole lot to show for their majority in the House, in my view. We have one reconciliation, the big, beautiful bill. Thank the Lord they passed that, because otherwise we would have had a gigantic tax increase. But Americans are not impressed with the absence of a negative. They want to see some positive things like voter ID. Everybody wants voter ID. Let's get it done. And I agree. Unfortunately, you can't put that particular thing in a reconciliation bill, but you can put some of the funding for making sure that happens, right? So strip down the bill, get rid of the ancillary stuff that was problematic,
We can do
and
that.
pass voter ID.
We have to reimagine reconciliation. It's a wonderful
100%.
thing, reconciliation. Trump knows politically he cannot ever look weak with Iran. That's a very important. I'll give you the last word.
That's key.
Really important.
Also, too, with our friend in Moscow. He's got to get that message, too.
Right.
He's already making noises. They're already making forays against the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, which used to be part of the Soviet Union, seized back in 1930. He has to realize, forget it. It's not going to happen. We're not going to tolerate it.
Hate to do it, but we got to get out. Sorry. Steve Forbes, thank you. Liz Peek, thank you.